and welcome to the Austin Forum Upload, where we explore pervasive and emerging technologies and their influence and impact on society.
In this series, we upload direct-to-you information, opinions, and insights from thought leaders, experts, and creatives from Austin and beyond.
They'll share their perspectives through conversations, interviews, debates, discussion, and more.
I'm Jay.
I'm John.
And I'm Barbary, and we co-produce the Upload for the Austin Forum on Technology and Society.
I'm Jay Boisseau, the Executive Director of the Austin Forum, and I'll be your host for this episode. I'm very pleased to have my co-producer as one of today's guests, John Lockman.
Hey, good to be here.
And another co-worker and good friend of mine, Luke Wilson, joining today.
Hi, Jay.
So we're very happy to have this podcast focus on our favorite topic right now, which is artificial intelligence, or AI, machine learning, deep learning. We're going to talk about it today, but it's not going to be a tutorial on AI. We're really going to talk about what's the facts, what are the fictions and fears, and what are the fantasies people have of it? What does the future likely entail? And then we'll close with a few little fun examples of AI. So with that, why don't we start a little bit, actually, with John. Why don't you and Luke each tell a little bit about yourself and your interest in AI?
Sure. So kind of been doing our AI for almost 20 years now, it seems like. Actually, back in my undergraduate, I worked with Luke on some genetic algorithms, and we did a lot of studies on neural networks and things like that. So we've been kind of involved in artificial intelligence for quite a long time now.
Yeah, it's come a long way. You know, we started working in this field when you were pretty much embarrassed to say you worked in artificial intelligence, and you said you worked in something else like metaheuristics, or I do really complex searches, or I do scheduling, or something like that. But you never said AI because I was like, oh, well, you're one of those, kooks working on that stuff like the old perceptrons and stuff like that.
Well, now it's cool to be an AI, and all three of us are. Our day jobs are at Dell. We also do some AI things outside of that as well. So it's kind of got some style now to go out and say, yeah, I do AI.
It's good to be in vogue.
Yeah, it's good. Maybe we'll stay in vogue for a while, I hope. So, and we'll talk about that in this episode. So again, thank you both for being here. All right, so let's jump into it. This is not going to be a tutorial on AI, but it's meant for the everyday person to understand what it is and how it's useful and what the realities and myths are. So why don't we start with what is it in a general working definition? How would you describe to your friends what artificial intelligence is? Luke, do you want to start?
So I think the way I would describe AI is the pursuit of mimicking the way people think. Now, whether that's for good or bad is completely up to interpretation. But the goal is to be able to mimic the way that people reason about the world in a computer.
John, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that classifies it really well. We're really trying to make a mirror of our own brains. We're trying to understand what it is about our own nature that makes us recognize images or language, or what makes us creative. We're trying to recreate that thing that we see in nature that we don't really understand yet.
So I'll build on that a little bit. I use that working definition a lot with my friends too. But it's not that we're trying to limit ourselves by what the human brain can do. We're trying to mimic the ways it works. If it can go beyond it on a task, which we've now seen, some AI tests go way beyond what humans can do on specific tasks.
Sure.
That's fine too. So I like the discussion of mimicking the way the brain works, but not limited by its capabilities. Of course, it's, as I'm sure you'll discuss, it's nowhere near as generally capable as any human brain.
Yeah, I don't think we're at the point yet, or we're going to be in the near future, where the computers can take over and we're limited to being, batteries in a pod or anything like that.
We'll talk about that later in the episode, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for very limited use cases, it can outperform humans for very specific tasks. That's not to say that a human who looked at millions of images of something couldn't become equally as good at a task. We just can't do it in the span of our lifetimes.
Yeah, I was really thinking more like the case of the Go champion, the world Go champion, being beaten by the AlphaGo program that DeepMind developed and Google acquired DeepMind as an extreme example of where an AI has gone beyond even the best human in the world. Of course, that AI can't then do other things that same human could do, but it could do one thing even better. So we're going to see more and more examples of this where AIs can do things almost as well as humans, but cheaper or faster, or maybe even as well as humans and cheaper and faster, or sometimes better, and doesn't matter if it's cheaper or faster, if it's even better.
Right.
So where do you think we're going to see AI technology start to equal or surpass human intelligence in ways that we experience in our lives?
I think the first part that people are really dialing into is in medical imaging. There's just limitations that humans have of how many images you can see, what you can recognize on it, how well you can recognize images at 3 a.m. because you're working the overnight shift. The computers don't get tired. They can see exactly what you see if you train them in the correct way. And, as we're going to keep pointing out, that AI right now works really great on very targeted objectives, like medical imaging, maybe finding cancer or searching for tumors, that sort of thing. And in the radiology space, that's where I see right now kind of the first touch of AI coming in and actually surpassing what humans are capable of.
Yeah, I think one of the real advantages of AI that we don't talk about is the replicability. I think this is the way that we're going to see it start to reshape the way we live our lives. We cannot train one radiologist and then replicate that radiologist a million times. We can train one AI to do the job of that radiologist and make infinite copies of it and put it everywhere in the world, in the richest parts of the world, in the poorest parts of the world, in the most extreme environmental conditions. We can put it anywhere we need it, regardless of the task it learns. And I think that's going to be the way that we start to see AI in the world, not as a presence, but as a ubiquitous part of the way we do things, because it'll be everywhere because we can replicate it over and over and over again.
That's a really important point. And of course, people see that in their daily lives right now in limited ways. They may not even know it's AI, but for example, the facial recognition to unlock your smartphone, or the voice assistants that all of the major tech companies seem to have these days that are processing your language in real time and trying to interpret not just the language, but what the intent was and give you meaningful results back. So we're starting to see some of that ubiquity. I think we've all been frustrated at some point or another by a Siri or Google Assistant or Alexa not returning the right result, but it seems to get better and better pretty quickly.
Well, it does.
Then it scales out everywhere, right?
Yeah, in the beginning right now, we're looking at things getting rapidly better, but we're spending an enormous amount of money on humans training these models. We're seeing them rapidly get better and improve over time, but there's a huge investment in the human side of that to actually make all that get better. Yeah. Right? It's not...
Which is in the news a lot right now, because it turns out that all the people doing the natural language queries have humans listening to it and interpreting it to train the model so that it can. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a...
Well, you have people listening to conversations so that they can verify that the AI systems are making the proper interpretations. You have these cottage industries of people who sit around and just tag images, so that you can train image classification models. So, there's an enormous amount of human capital in making artificial intelligence. There's nothing truly artificial about it. It's all human power.
That is a great point, and something our listeners may not realize is that these models that seem intelligent are all developed by humans and trained by human curation of data in most cases. And so humans play a huge role in creating these artificial... They don't just emerge from nowhere. Humans develop the algorithms. Humans probably develop the devices that are collecting the data. And in many cases, humans are tagging the images to train the model, or classifying the language that was spoken to train the model, or driving the vehicle at some point to train the model on what to do. So, yeah, we still play a huge role in training it. But then we release it into the wild, and it looks wonderful. Yeah.
Well, most of the time, I know I have situations where I try and give my house commands at 2 o'clock in the morning to turn on the lights, and it doesn't understand what I'm saying, and it starts returning search results to me instead of turning the lights on. So it's not perfect yet, but it's getting better.
It's not even perfect at the basic things yet, but it's getting better.
I would say that if you wanted to give it a score in terms of comparing it to the age of a person, I would say it's about as competent as a 2 to a 3-year-old in most cases.
Well, I would have been more generous. I would have said a 10-year-old, but okay.
I don't know. My toddler can go around and turn on the lights on command, and they usually don't misinterpret what I'm saying. So
they don't typically return a Google search result.
No, they don't tell me about the most recent song I searched for or anything like that.
Well, one of the big things that everybody is excited about seeing AI have a transformational impact on society is autonomous vehicles. And so we read about these all the time, and yet none of us are actually riding in one as a matter of practice. It seems like it's that almost like Zeno's paradox. We keep getting closer to it without getting there. What is the barrier that we have to cross before autonomous vehicles have enough intelligence to process the environments and make all the right decisions?
So I think the problem with autonomy and having the system make decisions as opposed to just making classifications or translations or something like that is we don't really know how we make decisions. We don't know how that works. And that's what's informing the way we design these systems. We have an understanding at a very primitive level of how we look at images. We have a very primitive understanding of how we understand sound. So we can do those tasks really well. But when it comes to how we make a decision, we don't really know how to do that. And the techniques we're using in AI right now, like reinforcement learning, are basically trying to teach AI to do these really complex things with a combination of carrot and stick. It's like, you did the right thing, I'm going to give you a cookie. Oh, you did the wrong thing, I'm going to ground you. It's like trying to teach a golden retriever to drive a truck. I don't know that that's going to be the way it works long term, because I don't know that that's the way that the human mind works to make those decisions. But as we get more understanding about the way we do things, we can impart that to the computer, and the computer will be able to make better decisions.
Yeah, I remember seeing the CEO for NVIDIA really boast about how well their AI was driving cars. And he showed a video of 1 month it doing really well on easy roads, but struggling with cones, struggling with soft shoulders in the road, etc. Mm-hmm. And then he showed a video of a month later, 3,000 miles later, how much better it was doing. And that was, everybody oohed and awed and clapped, because that is truly impressive for a computational driving system. Of course, for a human driving system, the first time if I hit the cone, you'd hit me and say, Jay, don't hit the cone, stupid. And then I'd never hit the cones again. I don't need 3,000 miles and a bunch of examples to learn that.
Right. Well, and beyond the rules and getting it to drive well and make those decisions based on a lot of environmental factors, I think there's still a big philosophical question about who's programming these models and who's deciding what decisions are being made. Unfortunately, there's going to come up an event where there's going to be a pedestrian in the road, and the vehicle is going to have to make a decision of, does it save the driver who's in the vehicle, or does it save the pedestrian who's in the street? Or if it's given the choice between an elderly pedestrian and a group of children, does it have to choose between those, and what makes that decision? I think that's still a big fear in kind of the adoption of full autonomous driving, is we don't really know the answers to those questions yet.
Yeah, our justice system, which is our best attempt to implement what we hope is fairness in the world, has laws and assigns blame and etc. And until you can fully map that to an autonomous vehicle system, it seems like that's probably not going to be the rule, just the exception. So I certainly see the possibility of exceptions happening with like small-scale delivery vehicles that aren't moving fast in a small region. I saw in the paper the other day, college campus is going to explore very small-scale little autonomous vehicles to deliver, I don't know, books or pizzas or something like that, but nothing fatal.
Nothing small crawler bots.
Crawler bots and things. And autonomy seems much less dangerous if the momentum and kinetic energy aren't enough to do significant damage. But in moving vehicles that weigh 3,000 pounds, moving 65 miles per hour, I think we have a lot of legal issues and ethical issues to resolve as well as technical.
I think there's a combination of things. So I think there's definitely a lot of legal issues, especially in really dynamic environments like urban core sorts of situations where you have pedestrians crossing the street and things like that. On things like expressways and interstate highways and things like that, I think there's less concern. The rules are pretty simple. You don't hit the car in front of you. You stay in your lane. And we can already do that just with sensors. We can do that with radar adaptive cruise control without having to employ a particular AI model to do some of the follow controls. We have lane keeping assist that's basically an image classification problem, looking for the lines in the road and automatically veering your steering wheel one way or another. We know Tesla is using the autopilot system, which is basically saying in constrained environments on straight highways, we believe the system is good enough that you can let go of the steering wheel. when that system fails, and it's failed a couple of times pretty spectacularly for Tesla, the question of who holds the liability comes into play. But I think in addition to the kind of the small crawler bots that you're going to see on university campuses and in urban cores, I think there will be a lot of autonomous driving on highways that comes up in the next few years.
That's good. So let's talk a little. We talked a little bit about the facts in AI. Let's talk a little about the fantasies before we get into the fears. So where do you see things going in 5, 10, 20 years? What are some of the things that you really look forward to that are within the realm of possibility, even likelihood for AI being game changers?
I think better natural language understanding, I think, is going to be the thing that I am really looking forward to in the next 5 to 10 years. That ability to have a full conversation with the computer. Because I don't know about anyone else. Maybe I'm an exception in the nerd circle, but I actually am okay talking, even to a computer. I don't have to type on a keyboard or touch a touch screen or anything like that. I would like to have that conversation. I'm looking forward to the world of Star Trek, where I can just talk to the computer. The computer can do what I ask. It can, in some cases, predict what I want to do, and be able to understand what I'm hoping to accomplish and help me accomplish that. Because sometimes I have my hands full and I can't type. And using my voice is a good way to interact with the system, especially if it's ubiquitous.
You two have worked with me long enough to know that I can't type, so I am definitely in favor of the conversational interface. John?
Yeah, I think the conversational piece is a part of what I see in my fantastic future is really a big step in elder care. Our growing population is old, and there's not a lot of younger folks to take care of them. So along with the language processing, I think the ability to better control robotics inside of the systems that we already live in. So like not thinking about the idea of having to retool everybody's homes so that it will fit this helper bot into your home, but the ability to really build systems that can understand the architecture that we already live in, that can exist in your home if it has stairs or something weird, that it can still get around your home, that it can still assist you, make you meals, maybe even be your companion, who knows.
So you two have both, in a different but related way, hinted at androids, basically, at something that you can converse with, that can do things for you and take care of you. Do you think that's likely in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
I don't think you're going to see realistic humanoid machines in the next 5 to 10 years. I know there's been a lot of work in this space, but I don't think humans are very good at understanding that things are not human. So I don't think we're going to get to the point where we can have this seamless interaction with a machine in the same way we would have an interaction with a human. But I think that machines, through conversation with us, through natural language processing, through text to speech, speech to text, conversational systems, are going to be able to provide a little bit of a slightly more capabilities than they do now.
So you're not looking for data in Star Trek. You're looking more at Scarlett Johansson in the movie Her.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah, maybe more helper bot, less full android.
And I'm personally not even worried about having a mobile capability. I mean, it's not about making a mobile machine that can follow me around and talk to me. I'm okay if it's my house.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, as long as it exists, it can converse and share information and answer.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think outside of that 10 to 20 year window, the humanoid form, that machine that's more like man, is going to become more important. Because in the end, why do we study AI? We study AI to study ourselves. We want to know how we work. And in the end, what we want to produce is something like us. And that's what we're going to end up doing, a century from now.
That sounds a little bit egotistical or narcissistic, but that sounds also very human. So I think I agree with what you're saying. John, do you have any additional fantasies for AI that you expect to come true in your lifetime?
Short term, right now, we're looking at, in the entertainment space, better AI in gaming. Has always been a big gripe in the gaming world that, you can make a player, and you can either make a perfect player who you'll never beat, or you can make a player who's just too easy to beat. And I think that's going to, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a lot better AI in gaming. I think we'll see better AI applications in entertainment as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, right now we're talking about, image classification or conversation, but I mean, in film itself, I mean, we could be using things like face swaps to put whoever we want in to whatever film we ever saw, or I mean, there's a lot of fantastic possibilities, I think, just in the current realm of what we have. We just need more people to tinker around with it.
I think that's actually going to be a huge thing in 10 years, is completely computer graphics generated actors that use AI techniques to generate as realistic actors as possible. And we've already seen some very limited examples of that in movies so far, and I think that technology, we've now seen AIs that can create symphonies that sounded like they were created by people, or paint pictures that seem like they were created by people. They failed on the poetry so far. I've yet to see a good AI-generated poem. And they didn't do too well on the screenplay tests. But in images and sounds, they seem to be doing pretty good. And I think it's not long before they can generate a realistic image, human, in a movie.
I mean, I know it was a joke in Futurama, but I mean, I don't think we're too far away from Director Bot 1 and Producer Bot 2 and Writer Bot 1, 2, and 4, who participated in the latest blockbuster hit. That's not too far away.
I think not, yeah. So what about fears? People have a lot of fears about AI. People like us are pretty optimistic, but there's even some of the luminaries in the tech field have expressed certain concerns about this. How about each of you give me one fear that you have and why you think it will or won't come to pass?
Sure. So I think one fear that I've thought a lot about lately is the deepfake application. So the concept of using face swap and, voice modulation to generate a video that looks like somebody is doing whatever you want them to do. Like I said, there's a fun side of that. I love seeing Nick Cage in all of my favorite movies, but, you can see how this could be used in a sort of more nefarious way.
Well, Nick Cage, the real guy's already in all of my favorite movies, but I hear what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, even here in the state of Texas, they just passed a law to prevent people from making deep fakes about political figures when there's an election. So it's a fear of right now because it's something we're already seeing it today. You're able to take really not that much. I think we're looking at something like 24 hours of recorded dialogue to generate a voice of whoever you want. Not that much video to actually make a fake video of somebody. So it's kind of a scary place right now where you can really make something that looks very real to a lot of people, even if it didn't happen.
Well, this goes along with my, forward-looking fantasy of completely artificially generated characters. We can actually essentially do that by training it as something to look like somebody else that happens to be real, but It's not. So we're kind of part of the way there. Luke, what are your fears?
Well, I think with the way we develop AI now, I don't really have a lot of fears. But like I said, I think we're kind of at the 2 to 3 year old level in terms of complexity. But I think my overall fear about AI is also the same as my overall goal. If we succeed, if we can build an artificial intelligence that is able to mimic us, to be just like us, we're not perfect things. I think the scariest thing that we could build is ourselves.
Also the coolest thing.
That's sobering and interesting thought. I think my biggest fear is, and not that I think we shouldn't do it, but is the military applications. We are always advancing military technology. Every country on earth has a right to protect itself, a right to preserve its sovereignty, etc. So when we call these things defense, it seems peaceful and a good pursuit, etc. But, history has shown that when Party A has a significant capability advantage over Party B, things become unstable. And I do worry about the possibility of game-changing AI replacing the relatively slow reaction times of humans and the relatively slow processing ability of a scenario with many independent elements in it of humans with something that can play many moves into the future and figure out in short order what's the right approach to take and how to achieve victory, and then presenting a human decision maker with that path. I guess the war game scenario is my fear. I don't think it will come to pass because most of the AI research is open source and open community and shared. And my hope is that the leading countries will stay on a relatively level playing field as they did with other military technologies. But I guess that's the one fear I have that I hope we can protect ourselves against. What do you guys think about that?
Well, hopefully it's like Whopper and it realizes that there's no way to win the game.
I love that movie. I actually thought that movie was a great example of AI in which you could see it running through scenarios and never winning and finally deciding the best solution was not to play.
I love the imagery of it at the end when it's inferring the results of war based on the results of playing tic-tac-toe over and over and over again.
Yeah, and for anyone who's not aware of this, we may have some audience listeners who weren't born when War Games came out, but still a great movie and a great example of this. So I'm going to close real quickly here, and we'll come back and revisit this and dive deeper into AI in future episodes. But I want to ask you what your favorite fun thing is you've seen in AI recently. It doesn't have to be meaningful, practical, useful, just your favorite fun thing.
Well, whereas John is fearful of deepfakes, I think the deepfake theater thing that has been kind of cropping up is really interesting. You can see all sorts of different movies with different actors' faces and voices superimposed on it. I think right now, as long as it's not being used for nefarious purposes, it's a great little parlor trick, and it's one of the only reasons I ever get on YouTube. So.
Yeah, no, the deepfakes are funny. I mean, the Nick Offerman is everybody on Full House it's funny. You love that stuff.
What's it called? Full House of Mustaches?
Full House of Mustaches.
Yeah.
But I mean, try to explain that concept to a farmer from the 1800s. I mean, we've really gone very meta. I really like the concept of kind of auto-generating memes. I think is kind of funny.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Which has been, entertaining to say the least. Some of the auto-generation projects that have been done, like the naming the colors of paint, was pretty entertaining. Just the way that you train something and what it thinks about or what it comes out with based on what you gave it. There's always the rule of garbage in, garbage out, but sometimes the garbage out is pretty interesting. So that's been kind of the fun part, I think, in the AI space. There's a lot of fun parlor tricks and a lot of fun kind of cool things to wow you. There's a lot of shinies out there right now, and those are fun to look at, because they're funny and we like entertainment.
We do like entertainment. Certainly AI is going to have a strong role in that, as well as practical enterprise applications and such. We'll talk more about all of this in a future episode, but for now, I just want to thank both of you too. I guess I'll see you at work tomorrow or whenever listeners listen to this. It's probably the next day we'll all be at work together. But thank you very much for joining today.
All right, thanks, Jay.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Austin Forum Upload. You can listen to additional episodes and check out a schedule of our monthly in-person events at austinforum.org. The Upload is a production of the Austin Forum on Technology and Society, a nonprofit organization here in Austin, Texas.